Hi, I'm Mike Coyle, and you're watching Inside Exploration. Today I'm here with President and CEO of Walker River Resources, Michel David. You can find Walker on the TSX Venture under WRR. Michel, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, how you doing? I'm happy to be here and talk about our project.
Oh, it's been a while. The last time I seen you, I ran into a blizzard heading into Nevada to come and film, so that was fun.
That's special in Nevada. You never know up there, especially in those months, right? After it's the altitude, we're high, we're so high up that weather can change in 1,000 feet, as you saw. It makes it challenging sometimes, but hey, that's what we do. So,
indeed, it's a challenging project in its own right. And I want to get into the project and I want to talk about the project in great detail, but something that I think is important when investing is that people understand the people running the project as much as they understand the project. And I find in my interactions with people that a lot of people don't really know what your background is and what you've done that put you in this position right now to be running Walker River. But while we were on site, you and I had some time over the course of 4 days to kind of talk about some of these things. And something I found really interesting was you had mentioned that early on in your career, you had done vetting of mining and exploration projects. So I was hoping that you could give us some insight on what your role was there and how that all developed or came to be.
Yeah, sure. I started off essentially as an exploration geologist. I had underground experience. I actually was a miner for a little while. My background, however, is economic geology. It's not, it's sort of a hybrid type geological that we had at McGill University in those days. We actually had a program that was economic geology. So it was emphasis on economics as well as on geology and exploration. So after coming out, I worked a lot in South Africa. And that's where I learned a lot how to do consulting and also how to vet a project. So one of my initial roles, even as a junior geologist out of school, was to, for the company, go see projects in South Africa and Namibia, Mozambique, and vet them for the company and say, should we do this? Should we make an offer? And of course, that sort of began coming more important in my career, and I started doing it for the World Bank in the Philippines and in Korea and Asia, where my job was to vet projects for World Bank, IMF investment. So that was actually, I was the guy who actually called the shot for the IMF if they would do it. I also worked for the United Nations as a geologist too for a brief style. So it's a bit of a varied background. I also have a background in civil engineering. I've worked a bit on everything, which is great fun. I like working on everything. And I actually for years actually did the course for the broker's license and financial advisement, just to learn how it was done. And after that, I struck out on my own. I also worked for a few majors on board of directors, both in Southern Africa, in Korea, and in Canada. So I sort of was on both sides, a hybrid. I got to understand what we, on a board of directors, a major, how we want to negotiate, which is different from what the junior mining company wants as where the major mining company wants. So you learn a bit about the pitfalls and also where we're going and what's best for both companies. And you sort of get an attitude of what they want for them and what we want for us may absolutely be different. So it does give me an advance in negotiating with major companies, for example, at Lapon, when that will and has started already in a certain way. So yeah, it's a lot of good varied experience as well as a geology experience. I have worked pretty well in, I don't know, maybe 20 different countries in the world. So that makes a lot of different geology to look at. What's important, it's not that you're working in Colombia or Korea or South Africa, is that you're looking at different rocks and different types of deposits. So if we look at, we talk about Lapon later, we look at Lapon, that's how I managed to look at it and say, wow, this is a pretty good project, though it's logistically challenging. But that's sort of a little synopsis of my career. I have a lot of experience in all over the world, in a lot of different terrains, and also from both standpoints of economics and management as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a pretty well-rounded wealth of experience working for juniors, working for majors, and that kind of segues into my next question, which is really good. It's my understanding that you had some interest from some majors in recent months, and you've had a few representatives come out to the site to take a look at what you're dealing with. Can you elaborate on what those visits were all about for Walker?
Yeah, we've had maybe in the last 2 years, perhaps, visits from 5 different companies, some Australian, one American, and one Canadian. And it's a due diligence type affair. In other words, they come out. It's not a holiday visit. It's a site visit with geologists, and they then will report back to their management. And in all cases, management has come back to me and requested either further info or how do we get involved? That's been the real, and actually that's been most of the question. How do we get involved? And my answer always has been and still is, we're a little early right now. I need one more phase of drilling. Now the hot spot and holes, as we will talk about there, holes 41 and 42, and the hot spot, the last drilling, sort of opens it up a little bit more. And for me, we can actually do what we've been wanting to do, like really drill it now. We haven't been able to do that, not because we didn't want to do it, just we weren't able geologically to do it. But we now reached that stage. So I've put the guys on standby a little bit, but they are very, very interested. But we just find it's a little early for them right now. We're going to keep on pushing this thing and so we can get its market cap up. That's our goal. It's always has been, is get this market cap up, to be able to negotiate from a little more strength than from weakness, obviously.
So in a perfect world, how would you like to advance this project? Would you like to do it on your own, raise the capital through the market, or would you like to bring in a joint venture? I mean, Michel, you came out of retirement to do this job, didn't you?
Essentially, yes. Joint venture, I don't like the word joint venture. I don't like joint ventures. So it's more of my goal, I don't think I have the time to actually put this into production. I don't even want to do that. I've done that, by the way, in my career, and I sort of promised myself I'd never do it again. It's just too much work from what I like to do. I'm an exploration geologist at heart. So no, that idea is not what I want to do. And I want to package it properly so we can get value for our shareholders, of which I am one, obviously. And that means we package it and then we have a partnership agreement with either a major or another company, but where they will do the funding. But they're not going to, I don't want them to strip us, we end up with 10% or something. The idea is to do a good partnership, which may be equity. There's a lot of models of how that's done. Right now, we can't do it because it's a little early, but in about a year, I think we'll be ready for it.
Out of curiosity, do you have any royalties on the property, or is that something
No,
that
we're
you
full.
can tap into?
We have a minor royalty to the original prospecting family, the surviving children. There's 2 of them, and it's a minor royalty. It's in total it's about a 1.5% or something like that, but on only 30 claims. So it's not horrendously terrible. So there's other aspects to how to do this project. There's royalty companies. We've also been approached by a royalty company in addition to everything I'm talking about. So but again, I want to emphasize I'm a little early because obviously COVID slowed us down. It slowed everybody down. The geology, it wasn't easy. You've been up there. You understand it a lot more, what the challenges are there. And it's not the logistics, roads and snow and weather and blizzards we can deal with. You can't deal with is when you don't know where you're going in terms of geology. We didn't have any historical records at all. So everything is from scratch from day 1 to day 2. Which also explains a little bit why somebody asks me, why didn't anyone else buy this? Why didn't you walk in? Well, when you're working for a major company, one of the first things you have to do is go see projects, vet them. But when you go back to your board and say, well, this is a great project, but you have no historical data, you have nothing. You just have a good idea. Say, well, I like this. And the guy says, well, why do you like it? Well, it looks good. That's not going to be a selling point. Yeah. And then even if the geologist convinces the people, well, this is a great project, the minute they see the mountain, they're going to walk away, obviously. So you need somebody, I won't say it's necessarily all of me, but you need somebody who's got a lot of geological imagination to see where this could go. So it's because of my experience in projects like this, where you walk into something, you only got old tunnels and begin to work from there. So it's a good reason why the project was available. It also explains a little bit the time it took us. Not that we didn't want to, but it's just we had to understand what we were doing. And I think we finally understood. We're starting to understand it, I think, after the drilling at what we now call the hotspot zone, which is just a continuation of the rest. It's not something completely new up there. It's just a continuation going up the mountain. It's simple as that. But it's very tasty. Let's put it that way.
And we're going to get into those holes, but I have a little bit of a tough question for you here. Well, not really tough, but it's kind of been a moot point for people. I'm sure you've seen this question coming. What can you talk about the decision to consolidate? Because consolidation of shares or reverse split is never very well received in the market. So far, you haven't dropped too far down, you haven't gone too high up. It's kind of staying status quo. Was this move done in anticipation of a deal, in anticipation of a financing, or was this just done because you're at that point where if you didn't, you're not going to make any traction whatsoever?
Actually, your answer. There's three reasons. It took us a long time. I resisted for a little while, but I finally got convinced. And it wasn't just the board or other people I know. It's advisors in Toronto. Look, I am fairly well connected, and I do know a lot of people in the industry. And I talked to a few well-known people in the industry, and I requested, "What do you guys think?" And they looked at our structure and they said, "Well, you're not far enough advanced yet." And the history of the company also is what slows you down. In other words, you started this project in 2013, 14 at the worst possible market ever. And because you couldn't get any traction, new projects, so on and so forth, you couldn't generate enough holes. You couldn't do enough work at the time. You're always doing 5 and 10 cent financing. So historically, amazingly enough, a lot of people made money in the stock, but it's not going anywhere. And the proof for me, I was resisting this idea for a long time until I guess after my drill results, our drill results of when we announced a hotspot in April, those are magnificent holes. For my career, those are, for me, I call them spectacular. I know how we did it. I know how we assay. I know obviously how representative the values are. They're not high grade and doesn't really mean, it means a lot. And that's what they mined as well. And I saw that, all right, we had a good move, but after that we came back down on big trading. Now people say, well, you're not, no, we traded close to 70 million shares in a month. So that tells me, yeah. And another thing I learned because of this is we had over 4,200 shareholders. So we are known. And I still couldn't get traction. So I was telling my associates, my partners, my advisors, we're on a merry-go-round and we can't get off. We go drill, get results out, stock goes up, comes back down, and go back and drill. It's just, we have to get off the hamster wheel. Now, back to your other one about deals. Well, it's also not attractive for, and this is my economic side, for a major company to be involved in a stock that's not well capitalized. So from our point, as a negotiation tactic, very hard to get involved with negotiation. And the third reason is to get our market cap. We were seeing that we're nowhere near where our market cap should be. Again, that's not because I'm the president or anything like that, but I know how to vet companies. That was my role in the IMF and the World Bank, is how to evaluate a company. And our market cap is just horrendous. And that's because of the structure. So I said, well, the only thing we can do now is, unfortunately, restructure. It's as painful to me personally as it is to anybody else. But I believe firmly that, we'll all gain in the end because we'll be able to increase the market cap. And when results do come out, and they will, the gold that we found is not going anywhere. It's there. We will respond to it. And we've already got more traction, not in the stock market, not yet, but in terms of people I'm talking to from, majors looking at doing a future partnership. So we're more attractive than we were. Let's put it that way. That was why we really had not much choice to go ahead and do that. So now the idea is to use that lever, promote it, what we're doing today, interviews, get data out there, and get the stock to where it is. Otherwise, we were against a brick wall, and we could work and work. And we spent, people don't know this, but we spent, a little bit about it. We did spend a lot of money in promotion, with social websites and so on and so forth. But it just wasn't working. As simple as that. We had great volume every day, but the traders had us, so it's very difficult. That was, in a nutshell, why we did it.
Well, marketing will only bring you as far as the project will. The project really needs to speak for itself. We can help gain clarity and transparency with companies, but at the end of the day, it's the drills turning in the ground that are going to really drive your project forward. Having said that, what we do is monumentally important, and I really appreciate your transparency on that question. So let's talk about your treasury. I mean, you're set to do a drilling campaign. The market's still waiting to hear about that. We'll get into that in a minute. But how much do you have in the coffers to be able to drill this year?
For the next drilling campaign, not much. We obviously don't have much left. I mean, we financed a long time ago. We didn't do the rollback for financing, but obviously it's attractive. So we have enough here to carry out our original start of our drilling, which is going to be shortly. The crews are out now. There's a lot of, as you now understand, you've been there, how much pre-work had to be done to start, just drive the drill in. We had a lot of reclamation for the future in terms of we had to do for the government, we have to reclaim environmental, a lot of our past drilling roads and so on to be able to do more. So that's the thing we've been doing all year. You were there when we were doing it.
Can I interject there, Michel? Just for our viewers who don't understand the process in Nevada, you're allocated 5% of your property to be able to build holes and drill pads, or 5 acres, sorry, to create pads and roads. So once you hit that 5 acres, you actually have to reclaim those roads before you can move forward and do new ones. And while I was on site, they were in the process of doing reclamation and some road building and pad building. But my understanding is the bulk of that happened after I left, correct?
Yes, because we had to, amazingly, we had to reseed things. So actually seed, we go around and we seed, and we finished that, and we got approval. Actually, it was a month ago from the BLM that we had come down from where we were at 4.1 acres, which had been for 5 years of drilling. That's pretty good. But now they dropped us back, and now we got 1 acre. So we have a lot of room. Now we can do everything we wanted to do, as long as there's other rules to go past that. But for us right now, we call this a notice of expiration, and that's how we continue with the government. It goes well, but at some time you do have to bite the bullet and get to work and reclaim, which we've done. So
great. So on that note, you've been doing some reclamation, you've been building some roads. People are eagerly anticipating a drill rig showing up on site. Maybe not as quick as some people would like, but what's the plan for drilling this year? Where are you starting?
We're going to start at Pikes because we'd already built all the pads at Pikes for last year the winter drilling. We didn't get to it because we had a lot of problems on the road there. It's a very steep road, but it's very steep for only one very short section. So we repaired that. Now there's a lot of contractor problems this summer. Anyway, it doesn't matter that they're ready to go now, and that's where we're going to start. And then we're going to move to Lapon after. Now, the idea of Lapon, what has been going on, I have to talk about this. What's been going on is, of course, I realize, and I know full well, that people say you've got to drill the bejesus out of it, for lack of a better word. But you can't do that in a deposit like this because we don't know what this thing looks like. Every hole we have is new. Again, I always harp on this and go back to it. When you have no historical data, you have nothing. We have no past drilling, nothing. We just have a bunch of holes, a bunch of tunnels. That's all we have. We can only get into some of them. So a lot of imagination, a lot of trying to understand, but every drill hole we did, it was like, sometimes there were surprises, not unsurprises, but that's not what we were expecting. And the real problem up there is it's very complicated. It looks easy. Rocks are easy. The red stuff has gold in it and the gray stuff doesn't. I mean, how's that for easy geology? But it moves a lot. The gold in the red moves around all the time, especially the high grade zones. It moves up, it moves down. And there are 3 fault patterns. There's northeast, there's east, there's north-south, and there's a flat horizontal slab, which is a thrust fault. And this moves everything around, so you don't know where it's going. We got a handle on it finally, but we would do, 10 holes, 12 holes. But then we didn't know what to do next. We had to go back to the lab and wait for the lab results because we weren't able to say, well, this is a quartz vein I'm drilling. It's white. It looks good. Because the gold in the altered zone, we can't find where there's high. When there's high grade, we can't see it. We don't see it. So the problem is, what have we hit? We don't know. So we had to wait for the lab, and this was one of our delays. But now the hot spot, which we call the hot spot, which is sort of going up the mountain. We're getting close to the top. We still have a lot of room up there. We're getting close to the top. We finally started drilling up there after getting our values below and saying, oh, this thing continues, keep on going up, keep on going up. But the hotspot, we call it that because we can see a horizontal slab, a thick slab of rock, and we can follow it and we can drill it because up there, we went up there with you, you remember, it's a lot flatter.
It is.
It's a lot of gravel. So we can put a bulldozer and just put a road in right away. And now we can drill along that road just about every 50 feet. Now we're going to do 50-foot holes. We can do 100-foot pads. On a pad, because of the geometry of the zone, which is a flat, it's all over. It's all underneath our feet. It's not just in one direction. I can drill from one pad. I can drill up to 5 different holes. So I've already got 10 pads built, and we've got about 15 to 20 pads planned. So that's close to 100 holes up there that we can do like right away. We don't have to wait for the lab on this one. Now we have a handle on this thing now. So we're just going to drill this thing like that. So people ask me about direction, about down dip, about here, the azimuth, which is the direction of your drill hole, is irrelevant. The gold is all over below your feet. Yep. There is no preferred direction yet that we understand because it's flat. Now, flat is very difficult to understand for a geologist, for anybody, because you're always working in the third dimension. We're not working on sections, as people understand. We're working in the third dimension. And a flat line dimension is a little tough to get a handle on. But once you've got the handle on it, it's getting easier now. And there's also a vertical extent to it. The gold is different from the rock. Anyway, just to get all excited about it, we're excited about the hotspot because we can finally do what I've been wanting to do now for 3-4 years. Just drill it. Go in a straight line, put the rig there, do 5 holes, move it 50 feet, do another 5 holes for once. And we don't have to wait for the lab. We're not going to wait. We now understand this up there. So very exciting. And that's the way to do this. And that'll attract market, and that'll attract the majors. And no, not attract them. They're attracted. We'll be able to negotiate with them from a point of strength. Now, when a major comes to see us, a provincial partner, he doesn't just come to the site. He needs all the data. So all the drill holes, everything is given to them. It's called a data room. We have a data room. Putting it public, we're not ready for where we're getting closer to that. But the idea is it's very difficult to understand. I'll interpret it one way and another geologist will interpret it another way. And you can't start having misinfo out there. So the idea now is we're almost ready for it because we got a handle on this now. And so we're not a matter of the guys don't see our data. And after seeing our data, they all are coming back to us. So that's what makes it good. So
let's circle back to the data that you're going to provide or have provided or will be providing in a minute. I want to understand how you're drilling this hotspot zone. So based on our conversations, I feel like you're going to be coming above the hotspot zone and you're going to be drilling down into the structure?
Down into it.
Okay, because and that's where all of your roads are.
The structure keeps on going on top. It's not just below it. It keeps on going up. So what we're going to do in a new road, we'll be able to drill down into it. All right, that's one way. But then we'll be able to drill in the other direction as it goes up. So we're going in all directions. That's the beauty because it's a flat slab of rock underneath our feet.
Yeah.
So we just drill in all directions in it. And the gold is preferentially, we don't know where, it's sort of everywhere. And that's proven by, if you look at one hole, 81, or is 82, I forget the exact number. That was a 400-foot long hole. And every 5 foot ran gold, and we're still in it at the bottom of the hole. We don't know how long it goes. I mean, I don't know. The hole was only 400 feet long. We didn't know. And you don't see anything at the bottom of the hole that looks different from the top. And there were just great results in there and a lot of nice low grade material. You need that as well because you can find this because you get a lot of tons. So we have a mixture of lower grade and high grade. So
great. Okay. So when we first met, though, you were really keen, my apologies, you were really keen on holes 42 and 43. And this area, you said, that you were excited because this area it's a little bit steeper, it's a little harder to access, but it's got a lot of overburden. And that's what excited you, is that the overburden was actually covering what the old timers would have not been able to see.
Exactly.
So I know the market would like to see you revisit these holes, but now you're kind of focusing on the hotspot. What's the plan for 42, 43?
Well, it's not really focusing. It's a matter of understanding when you go back to something. I don't understand why 42 and 43 were there. 42, I think, is now part of the hotspot. We
Okay.
understand it because
Yeah.
we drill it. It's below, it's about 150 feet as we go west, but that's below our feet. It looks like it might be part of it. Don't get it yet. And 43 is totally new. It's on the other side of another granite. It could be a completely new zone.
Okay.
Now, it took us 5 years to chase this zone. So before we start completely new zone, and also it's really steep, very tough access. So we're wondering how to access it. We'll try and access from the top, and maybe you do a longer hole. We're not there yet because right now, I think it's the idea again is to do as many drill holes now quickly, stop with these 7 holes and go back to the lab, because then we'd have to do 43 like that. Let's get 80 holes under our belt for once, and then we can do that. But we actually think that, 42 is part of the hotspot just below it. So,
well, I mean, it would make sense. It would make sense if you look at the drone footage from far away. You can kind of see everything kind of funnels down, and you've got granite on this side and granite on this side. Well, the one side's a valley, but where you're focused on 43 and 81 and 82, those holes are kind of sitting on a bit of a ridge. And I don't know if people can really see that from the footage we've provided so far, but is this where you drilled into the granite that you sent out for assays? Because I'm pretty sure we're waiting still for some assays.
Yeah, we're waiting for assays. Now, we did get assays in the granite from the holes at the hotspot, for sure. That's why we said, well, why is the granite running here? And after that was on hole 35. And we came back to it. So then we ran our granites, and they run up there. It may be a second granite. We don't understand it yet. So what I did is I went back to our bags that hadn't been sent to the lab, because I don't assay everything. The granite, I'll do random samples. But we went back to them, and we chose some out of different holes, and we sent them to the lab to see if other granites run. If they don't, it don't. But it's just wondering why that granite at the hotspot ran. We don't understand it yet. We're excited about it. So we want to see in case, did we miss something? Did we actually miss something? I don't think but there will be some results from those. But we just don't know. Again, it's exploration. We just don't know. Every time you think that Mother Nature, you understand her, she throws you a curveball. So we're not going to be, we're not going to be, oh God, we know what's going on yet. We're not there yet, but that's mining and that's exploration. It's not easy to do. And again, I always go back, no historic. I don't know. Every hole to me is new. I mean, I don't know what the guy did 600 feet away. I have nothing 10 miles away. So it makes it interesting, makes it exciting.
Okay, let's go back to the data. We spoke 3 months ago. I held you to account. I wanted to see more maps. I wanted to see more information. Michel, I'll be honest, I haven't got as much as I'd like to see so far. But one big thing I think that I'm going to press you for is the drill tables, the complete data, or maybe not the whole data room, but at least the drill holes that you've published, maybe some in and around the hotspot and stuff, so that people can get a better, like, there's a lot of savvy investors out there that can type in these numbers into Leapfrog and start to model things themselves and spin stuff around. And I know the armchair geologist just can jump to conclusions very quickly. But I mean, I think a lot of companies set the standard where they publish this data and they allow investors to see it. Can we expect that from you?
Yes, we can. We will. We started trickling it out. There's all sorts of reasons why. I won't get into it. There's nothing that we don't want to hide. Obviously, we don't hide it from majors or people like that. Do we hide it from the market? No, we don't really want to hide it from the market. But we want to make sure the market understands it. For example, on our website, there are at least one section of hole 10, and it's a fantastic hole. And the comments I got on it were, again, armchair geologists saying, well, this was wrong. You didn't drill it right. So I'm saying, okay, I'm used to that. I'm thick-skinned. It's not the critique that bothers me. I don't really care. What bothers me is I can see the direction you're going in. So I'm saying, now, wait a minute. They're not going in the right direction. What you just said actually is part of it. This is a tough project as all, but this one's special. And this one is special for 2 reasons: topography, and the fact that this thing is semi-flat on a thrust fault. Now, to interpret that, not that I'm a brilliant geologist, but it's tough interpretation. It took us 5 years. And even today, okay, a hotspot's got me excited. I think I understand it, but I probably might not understand it. It's a very difficult project because you're always working in 3 dimensions. And sometimes just a drill map, for example, we put a drill map on there. Okay, it's flat. You can't understand the topography, is how steep. And that is so important to this project. It's not just it's steep. Well, that makes it tough. Yeah, it does. But it's also affecting the geology a lot. So that being said, that's my excuse. That's my sort of my resistance. But you actually broke through the resistance, and I did get some other things. I will get more. We also again, we had personnel problems. We still do. It's not easy for a small company like us to find qualified people with the salaries they have these days to come and work for us. We have a number of guys who come and left. And anyway, we're getting there. We hope on my trip to Nevada in the next couple of weeks when I leave, that will be the last setup we do to get these things out. But it is coming along. That's the promise. I will have the data. The data. Maybe not all of it, not every hole, because, but at least something that's so representative. I don't. The market's job is not to do due diligence, but we'll try and furnish as much as we can. But we will. That's our promise.
I hope people
not hollow.
I hope people appreciate your transparency, because I've asked you some tough questions today and you didn't shy away from any of them. You're very forthright in your responses. And you know what? I also hope people take value in some of these videos that we're putting out that kind of articulate some of what you're saying and the difficulties in drilling and understanding how you're going about the project. I think it's important. Okay, so when can we expect to start drilling, Michel? I think everybody wants to see a drill turn in. What's the plan?
Yeah, we do. It's going to be the next few weeks. Again, the contractor is the guy who decides, not me. The contractors, their rigs they're not hanging around in a yard somewhere. They're working. And often it's like any project. I mean, I know when I start, I don't always know when I end. But we've got the timeline down to now. We're going to start the next few weeks. We're going to start at Pikes because that's been ready and we want to do. Pikes Peak on its own is a project. It could be a company builder on its own. It's part of Lapon. It's not on the same trend, but it's also a project with no background. But the mining they did is extensive, a lot different from Lapon. There's at least 4 shafts. There's 10 adits. And it's a gold project. Well, it's not a copper project, but there's a lot of copper. Now, for me, I'm not excited to say, oh, there's copper up there. What I'm excited about is that tells me something. That tells me that's where our monzonite is. And if you go back to historical geology, if you go back to mines in Nevada, mines actually all over the world, what you need nearby a gold mine is a quartz monzonite porphyry. The word porphyry is so important. We hear about porphyry copper, so that's where the name comes from. And the porphyry is your heat pump. And every mine in Nevada, whether it's Gold Strike, whether it's in Eureka, whether it's Round Mountain, they all have that porphyry somewhere nearby. And what's in a porphyry, obviously, is copper. It brings in the gold around it, too. And there we are at Pikes, and we've got copper and gold. So there's our monzonite porphyry that controls the mineralization at Lapon as well. So it has a lot of potential. We went there. Obviously, I've been there a few times. So we actually sampled there. Just on outcrop, I got almost 10 grams of gold just on outcrop and 3% copper. So it's a really, really exciting project. And let's start drilling there because we're not ready yet on Lapon, but after Pikes we can move to Lapon because we have to build our new roads. And like I said, we want to build something where we can go drill in on section, and we can put in 10 pads and drill 50 holes, something we've never been able to do before. But because of the topography up there, you've been there. Because the old guys, I have to bring it up. When I started Lapon, and I've been working in Nevada for a few years, I believe a lot what the old prospectors knew what they were doing.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, they had to because they were putting their lives on the line. So when I go up at Lapon and I saw the tunnels, every time I went up and found something, they had been there. And I went, and this trail where 80 was a horse trail, right up to the top, to the summit at 9,000 feet. And I walked up there. And what did I see? I saw an old adit. And I was a little disappointed because I said, oh man, they've been there too. every time they had access, they went there. So I would walk the property, and I was sort of disappointing that my prospectors didn't go anywhere else. I said, oh, maybe there's nothing else. You sort of start questioning yourself. When we were building the road, we dug down, and we dug down 10 feet, and bingo, we found it. They would have never seen the hotspot because it's covered with gravel. They don't dig in gravel. So that's exciting to me. That was really made it that it's new, completely new. Nobody else has seen it. That's really good. So it makes it good.
Well, I mean, even going through some of the footage and looking around at the surrounding mountains from the drone footage, you can see red alteration zones in the adjacent mountain range right next to Lapon. And it leads you to wonder, like, at some point you're going to have to get a few boots on the ground up there and check out these different spots.
We do that. And again, we talk about it when people say to me, what are you doing this summer? Well, we don't just drill and go up there and look at that, bring the rig up and go away. We're working all summer up there. It takes months and months of work to hike. That's hiking too. It's tough.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I've been there, and even now, I love it because it puts me in shape. But it's tough to visit. We haven't visited right now. We've seen, I don't know, 30% of our project in terms of boots on the ground. There's a lot of work to do still. There's a lot of areas we haven't seen yet. We know there's been lots. We've flown it, obviously, but drones are fun, but we've flown it with helicopters where we can land and go see. And we've seen some stuff up there that we'll say one day we're going to come back, but we're not ready for it yet. But so a lot of the work we do, when people say, what are you doing? Well, geology is what we're doing. So we're walking, we're prospecting, we're doing the geology to understand, because what you say is absolutely right. There's a lot of stuff up there. And I went up to, in the middle of nowhere, I was walking up and I was finding all sorts of stuff, and I ran into an old prospector's cabin.
Yep.
And walked around, and there it was. There was a little pit there. They've been all over. But we have to be all over too. So that's what we're doing at the same time. We're not just.
I know that I know that Pikes Peak and Lapon are your focus, but you also have Rattlesnake. Do you have anything planned for this year for there, or is that going to be kind of a next year thing?
The Rattlesnake is too tough right now. The access is difficult. We have to build all sorts of stuff, and we say no. Let's not run around. The project's always there. The goal that's at Rattlesnake will be there. It may not be me who'll do it, but it will be somebody. The claims are ours. They're 100% belong to us, but it's not time to get involved in that one. We're almost on the edge here of really, blowing this thing apart with, if we do 100 holes in the next 6 months, that's going to change the story completely. And we're going to get good results. I mean, I don't expect suddenly to get nothing but dud holes, dud being a hole values, and it may be valuable to a geologist. Hasn't happened at Lapon. Even though I didn't know what I was doing, it didn't happen. It won't happen. We'll get good results. We'll get some holes that won't run. That's not how geology can't run it everywhere, but we're going to get some really good results. So that's why for once we'll get a whole batch of good results in a row. We got a better market capitalization. We got a better company structure. It's going to be a lot better now. Then we'll get to Rattlesnake a little later on, but let's do Pikes first. Pikes it's not hard to do. Access is easy.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty excited about this year's drilling campaign. I really do feel like you have a better handle on it. And after being on the project and seeing it for myself, I mean, the alteration zone is far more obvious than what you can tell from a map. In those maps, you see a lot of green trees and you can't see the topography. So I'm really excited for you, Michel. I hope this is a smashing success. I'm really looking forward to these drill results. I have kept you on for longer than anticipated, so I'm going to cut this off here. But thank you again for answering some of the tough questions and being transparent with us. And I'm going to hold you to that drill data. I want to see some of that hit the market. Well, and I'm sure others do too.
Knowing you're going to hold me to it, I wouldn't have said I'd do it because you're going to come back at me. So I better get working.
Fair enough. All right, Michel, thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, bye.